are leaving the industry due to burnout. About 97% of early educators are women, and of those women, 40% are black women, brown or immigrant women. Women all over the United States and in other countries like China, Russia, Sudan are vanishing, and in some cases dying. The black bodies of mothers, daughters, and sisters are being sex trafficked, snatched up, raped, killed, criticized for having abortions, criticized for having too many kids, for too many baby daddies. Black bodies are being used to advance medical science. Society judges the black woman for being too independent and for being lazy and for collecting SNAP benefits and WIC. Black women, Sandra Bland, Sojourner Truth, Henrietta Lacks. The pain carried in our hips travels up to our spines, making it harder to carry on our backs. That pain is as heavy as the babies on our hearts that we birthed into the world that hates us and hates little boys that become the men that are endlessly murdered without remorse and for the simple crime of being caught black in the wrong place at the wrong time. With all that black woman is to the universe, the black woman oftentimes feels like nothing. As black people, at the deepest core of our beings, we were conditioned to believe that we are simply not good enough. That is a barrier that prevents our hearts from healing. Let's travel back down those bloody boulevards though. The same streets that took my brother, took Gerard McClendon's parents, and Sylvia Snowden's cousins. The local media will be all over the details of the killings, but never many details on why these things were happening, besides the quintessential gang affiliation line. So much of the murders in black communities were direct results of the inequities displayed toward blacks. In addition to education, housing inequalities impacts our families. Redlining, which dates back to the 1930s, created the obstacles of allowing black people to receive home loans. Most inner city families have become accustomed to apartment living or shared space. I remember living in Austin, and our cousins lived right above us. At that time, we thought that that was the best setup. I mean, it was better than the project buildings my other cousins were growing up in. Project living in Chicago resulted in black people once again being forced to survive in spaces that were unfit, unsanitary, dirty, and destitute. Projects were high-rise slave ships with windows and concrete walls. The housing inequities over time became compounded with the food inequities which led to obesity, hypertension, and cancers. Death was close to us by way of unhealthy conditions. Death was close to us by way of our homes. Death was close to us by way of our families and friends. Black people in Chicago often have trouble finding a win in situations when the odds are overwhelmingly stacked against them. Discomfort outside the home creates disarray inside of the walls of black homes in Chicago. Disassociation of the disarray plays out on our own friendships and intimate relationships, oftentimes resulting in physical fights, police sirens, and the baby daddy being arrested. And I am no exception to this rule. In my case, he and I both got arrested, more than once. I knew I was traumatized when I found myself next to a bloody man, my eldest daughter's dad, behind his garage and scared for the cops to come. I had scratched him up pretty bad this time, and the time before that too. I knew then that my life was at its fullest. I was absolutely sick, yet living in this perfect pretend universe that I had created. Yet it wasn't pretending. I really did live a perfect life, at least as far as the eye could see. However, I was stuck in two worlds. In one world, I was an abuser, provoking fights in a premature relationship with little to no understanding of why. In the other world, I was a stable mother, a college graduate, a published writer, a community leader. Everyone adored me, but I hated myself.
Thank you so much.
Oh, that's my Facebook friend. Thanks for coming. Thank you all. I wanted to thank you for coming, Cindy. I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of what inspired that chapter and what, as my dad mentioned and Marvin mentioned, what is it that makes trauma so hard to get past and kind of how it all starts. To be honest with you, if you grew up in Chicago, you grew up around trauma, whether you realize it or not. And so what fails to happen in our society, in our educational system, in our families, is connecting the history of our lives and our culture on those slave ships to the trauma that we experience. And so now,